Lesson 3, Features of Organisms. Again, the objectives are very important. We need to check by the end of our studying that we covered all those objectives. So remember from last lesson when we talked about kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So we said that these are the basics of classification and that the broader category is always the one on top. And then the more we go down, the narrower the category becomes and the more features those creatures share together. Today we are going to discuss the kingdoms. The kingdoms we're going to discuss now are kingdom Animalia and kingdom Planta. We have 5 main kingdoms, but those are the 2 that we are going to dig deeper in. To begin with, we're going to compare between kingdom Animalia or the animal kingdom and kingdom Planta or the plant kingdom. This comparison is very important to answer many of paper 3 questions. First of all, both kingdoms creatures have cells with nuclei. What is a nucleus? It is an organelle inside the cell. We will learn more about cell organelles later. And then the second point is their cells don't have cell wall or chloroplasts. That's true because chloroplasts are another subcellular structure that is used for photosynthesis. So of course it is specific for the plants. And this cell wall is made of cellulose. The third point, it's talking about that they feed on organic substances that contain carbon. Actually, plants, they make their own food by a process called photosynthesis. Under the microscope, we can use it to see the cell, but we will never be able to see the cell walls because they are not there. Under the microscope, you can see the cell wall. So this comparison is very important. Please memorize it and learn it well. Now, let's look at the kingdom and again, the categories below. Again, we are in kingdom Animalia or animals. We will look at phylum Vertebrates. So now we are looking at a closer category, creatures that share something more and more in common, which is having a backbone. And we will look deeper into class fish. So again, we are in the vertebrates class fish. Features of fish. All of the fish have gills for breathing. What does this mean? You know, when you breathe in and breathe out, you use your lungs for this, right? But fish, they do not have lungs. So how do they breathe? How do they get the oxygen they deeply need for cellular respiration, which is very important for their survival and for them to become living organisms? They get it by passing the water through the gills. And when the water passes through the gills, the gills have the ability to extract oxygen from the water and replace it with carbon dioxide. So again, they use the gills for breathing in the technique I just mentioned. They have scaly skin for protection. But what do they need protection from? Actually, from the effect of water. Remember when you went to the pool last summer and then you stayed in the pool for a long time. You felt like your skin was wrinkled. What happened? If you stayed in the water for way more longer time, your skin will start getting damaged. So this means that the skin is not prepared to be subjected to water all the time. So that's why fish need scales to protect their skin. They have streamline shape to reduce water resistance. When they swim, they need their very narrow and thin body to reduce the water resistance. Imagine if the fish was very broad. The resistance of the water could have been very, very, very strong. So this will make swimming harder and needs more energy. That's why they have the streamline shape. Fertilization external. What does this mean? This means that the females lay eggs outside of their bodies and then the male sheds the sperm over them directly in the water. External. External means outside of the female body. And other fish features that they have fins. Why do you think they need fins? Just like the oar of a boat, they need the fins to direct them into the direction they want to go. It controls the direction of their motion. And another feature is to maintain the depth of the water and control buoyancy. They need a swim bladder. What's buoyancy? It's the power or the force that's trying to push them up to float. So they need something in their body to control the depth of this body in the water, and it's called a swim bladder. Also, they have an operculum over the gills. Why? To draw the water across the gills, okay? So that the water goes inside the gills and provide them with the oxygen they need. Back to our classification. What is this? Again, this is the kingdom, and this is the phylum. We are in phylum Vertebrates, which means that all of these creatures, they have a backbone. And then we will dig deeper and we will look at amphibians, class amphibians. Amphibians. Most of adult amphibians live on land. What about the smaller amphibians or the little amphibians, the baby ones, the larvae amphibians? They are called tadpoles. Where do they live? They live in water and they undergo major change along their life. What do we call the changes that happen, or the creature that changes its shape along their life? Or what do we call this process specifically? We call it metamorphosis or metamorphosis. It is the change from larvae to an adult organism with different body forms along the way. Let's take an example and look at this frog, for example. For example, here you see the tadpole and here you see the adult frog. They actually look as if they were two different creatures, but actually they are the same creature but in different stages of life. And this is the process that we call metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is when the creature takes different shapes along its life stages. As you see here, the tadpole has gills for gas exchange, like the fish, while the adult has lungs and moist skin. So they look completely different. The tadpoles have tails for swimming and streamline shape, just like the one we mentioned in fish. While the adults or the adult amphibians, what do they have? They have two pairs of legs, hind and front limbs. So they look completely different. And this is how metamorphosis work. If you look here, this is the life cycle of the frog. In each stage, it looks completely different than the one before. External fertilization, as we said in fish also, and this is something they also have in common, external fertilization, which means that the female lays the eggs and then the male drops the sperm on them outside of the female's body. The type of eggs they lay, jelly coat. They have a coat, but it's made of jelly. It's jelly-coated eggs, which act as a shock absorber, then hatch into tadpoles. What does shock absorber mean? It means that those eggs, since their cover is rubbery, it's made of jelly, it protects them from any hitting or any shock that happens to the egg and protects the creature inside. What about the adult frog? The adult frog has short body and webbed fingers and toes for swimming. What does webbed fingers mean? Webbed fingers, as you see here, they have pieces of skin to connect them together. Okay, so this is called webbed fingers and toes. They have external eardrum for hearing. Can you see this? External eardrum to detect the vibrations of sound and to help them hear sounds. Now, again, animals, this is the kingdom. Vertebrates, this is the phylum. And now we will look at class reptiles. Reptiles. All of these are examples of reptiles. What are the features of reptiles? They live in different environments. Some of them are marine, some of them live in fresh water, some of them live in dry deserts. As you see here, this class is completely diverse, yet they still have some things in common. Looking deeper, we will see that their body temperature varies according to the environment, which we call cold-blooded in biology. Also, the fertilization is internal, which means that the male and the female reproductive tracts has to be brought together. And this is the first class where we saw this feature so far. They also have thick and dry scales to reduce any water loss from their skin. Most of them have short and weak legs, except for snakes, for example. They don't have any legs at all. Why do they need this? To slide along the ground. Have a look at their bodies. Their bodies are divided into 4 sections: head and neck, trunk, and finally the tail. What else do they have? They have a deep eardrum for hearing. Remember amphibians? They had an external eardrum. Here they have a deep eardrum for hearing. We will see another class now, but we will start from the top again. Kingdom animals, phylum vertebrates, and class birds. Birds have a lot in common too. All birds evolved from dinosaurs, and I know that this is a fascinating piece of information. Also, birds are the only animals with feathers, although sometimes they have scales in parts of their body. So, only class where you will find feathers is class birds. They have different shapes of beaks according to the type of food they have, and they lay eggs with hard shells, and also this is specific for birds. Also, birds have 2 front limbs, which are the wings. All birds have wings, but not all birds can fly. What else do we know about birds? That their body is covered with waterproof oil. Why? To avoid or prevent absorbing water from the environment. Also, they have very well developed circulatory systems. Why? To provide oxygen. Flying is a very tiring process that needs a lot of energy. So that's why they need very powerful flying muscles and they need constant oxygen supply. Their fertilization is internal, like reptiles, of course, and their bones are very strong, yet very light. Why? Because they need strong bones to help them fly and to help to ease their movement, yet they have to be light, they can't be heavy, to help them fly higher and higher. So these are other features for birds. Let's look at the last class, the one that we belong to, which is class mammals. So all mammals, they have hair on their skin. Also, they have ear pinna. What's an ear pinna? An ear pinna is the flap outside of the body that directs sound into the ears. Can you see here? This is the ear pinna. What else do mammals have in common? Their fertilization is internal, just like reptiles and what else? And birds. Thank you. So their fertilization is internal, which means that the sperm joins the eggs inside the female's body. Few mammal species lay eggs, while the majority actually give birth to their young. What else do we know about mammals? Their youngs develop in the uterus of the mother, and it gets attached to the mother by the placenta. So what's the placenta? Have a look here in this GIF. This is an organ that connects the baby to the mother, or the growing fetus to the uterus wall, where substance exchange happens between the mother and the fetus. The mother provides the fetus with the nutrition it needs to grow, while the fetus excretes and gets rid of any unwanted substances through the placenta. Also, the females of mammals, they have the mammary glands. What are these mammary glands? Actually, these are the glands that produce milk to feed their youngs. They have different kinds of teeth, as you see here. They have the incisors used for cutting, canines, premolars, and molars. We will learn deeper about teeth in another lesson. Finally, mammals and birds are warm-blooded, which means that they can control their body temperature and keep it stable. Like if you are outside and the weather is 0 degrees Celsius, your body temperature will still be 37 degrees Celsius, right? And vice versa. When it's very hot outside, your body temperature stays the same. So this is because you are warm-blooded and because you are a mammal. Examples of mammals like what? Like bats, whales, humans, mice. All of these are examples of mammals. While we are still in the same kingdom, kingdom Animalia or animals, we will move to the other phylum. So the first phylum was the animals that had a backbone, the vertebrates. But now we will be looking at invertebrates, animal without a backbone. We also call them arthropods. This phylum has some features in common. They have several paired legs, jointed legs. Jointed means they have joints in between. You know what's a joint? It's the place where two things meet. So their legs are jointed. Their legs have sections that meet at specific parts called joints. They have exoskeletons. What do I mean by an exoskeleton? I mean that it's a hard shell or a hard covering of the body. It's made of a material called chitin. Why do they need it? Of course, to support their body. If they did not have any support or any coverage, they could die out. Also, they have segmented bodies. Their bodies are made of segments. They are several groups. We have several classes in this phylum. Insects, crustaceans, arachnids, and myriapods. You can remember them with the word MICA. M-I-C-A. Myriapods, insects, crustaceans, and arachnids. Let's take a look. Again, it's kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropods, and class insects this time. So let's take a look at insects. So insects, of course, are invertebrates. This group or this class is considered the most successful one. Why? Because it has the most number. So in biology, success is measured by the number of creatures that are still living. Also, they are said to be terrestrial. What does terrestrial mean? Terrestrial means that they live on land. Also, due to the presence of the exoskeleton, they are very good at stopping water from evaporating from their bodies. So the exoskeleton is not just to protect them from normal conditions, but also to protect them from dryness. It protects their body from losing a lot of water. Okay, let's take a look about the features and adaptations that help insects be that successful. First, they have 3 pairs of jointed legs, which means 6 legs, as you can count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 3 pairs, 1 pair, second and third. For rapid movement, of course, this is what I was talking about, the joints. Can you see the joints here? So the legs are divided into segments and they have joints in between to help them move fast. They have 2 pairs of wings. One of them might be vestigial. What does vestigial mean? Means that this pair of wings might not be working as wings, might not be helpful for flying. Also, the body is divided into 3 parts. As you see here, head, thorax, and abdomen. What else do we know about insects? We know that they breathe through a trachea. What's a trachea? It's a pipe that allows airflow. They have 1 pair of antennae, which means 2 antennae. What are antennae useful for? They are useful for sensation. They sense any stimulus or any change in the surrounding environment. Their heads, as you can see here, is provided with sense organs, such as the very compound eye that you see in front of you. How different this eye is from ours. It has a wide vision. You know, when you take a wide photo with your mobile phone, or when you take a panoramic photo with your mobile phone, this is how insects see. They see in a panoramic view. Now we leave class insects, but we're back into kingdom animals, phylum vertebrates or arthropods, and we will be looking at the crustaceans this time. And this is, of course, the class. Class crustaceans, they are the marine animals that we all know, like the lobsters, the crabs, all those delicious animals that we usually eat. They have 3 main parts in their body. Their body is divided into 3 main parts: head, thorax, and abdomen, just like insects. And they have 2 pairs of antennae, which means how many antennae? 4 antennae. Why do they need antennae? Again, for sensation, for the same reason. They have more than 4 pairs of legs, which means that they have more than 8 legs. Also, they have a very specific feature. They do molting, or they grow by molting. What's molting? It's leaving the exoskeleton and hardening a new exoskeleton. So they leave the old exoskeleton when it's tight or it's not suitable for their size anymore, and they start hardening a new exoskeleton, as you see in the GIF. Now we leave crustaceans, but we go back into kingdom animals, phylum arthropods, but now we are in class arachnids. Class arachnids. Okay, the terrifying one. Okay, the spiders. 2 main body parts only this time. They have the cephalothorax and the abdomen, as you can see. They don't have any antennae. They have 8 legs for movement. They have 4 pairs. If it's 8 legs, it's 4 pairs. Of course, they are jointed legs for rapid movement, as you can see. The majority of arachnids are spiders, but are they only spiders? No, we have also scorpions in this group. Terrifying creatures. They have pedipalps. What are those pedipalps? It's like little hands to help them manipulate their food and hold their prey. Okay, most spiders catch flying insects in their webs. But what about scorpions? Scorpions, as you see here, have their venomous stinging tail. They use it for defense and also to capture their prey. They have claws instead of the pedipalps for capturing their prey and holding it too. Now we're still again in kingdom animals, phylum arthropods, and with the last class, which is myriapods. Class myriapods, it's divided into 2 smaller groups. They are centipedes and millipedes. Let's take a deeper look at this class. We have many segmented parts of their bodies, not just 3 segments or 2 segments as before. We have a lot of segments. They have up to 200 pairs of legs, which is 400 pairs of legs. But centipedes have fewer legs. And as we said, each segment of the body holds only 2 pairs of legs. So this means that they have a lot of segments, like 200 segments in their body. Also, they have 1 pair of antennae for sensation, like insects. Thank you. Only 1 pair of antennae. So their body is covered in a waterproof substance. Why? For protection. As we said before, if the creature loses a lot of water, it's gonna die. So that's why they need protection. Millipedes eat plant debris, while centipedes are carnivores. Can you look here? So this is a comparison to show the whole image together. So here you can see millipedes having 200 pairs of legs or less, like less than 400 legs, while centipedes have even less pairs of legs. Small antennae, here they have long antennae. Eat plant debris, while those are carnivores. But as we agreed before, whenever you're making a comparison, you have to show differences and similarities. So there are 2 similarities between millipedes and centipedes. They have many segments in their bodies, and their body is covered with a waterproof substance. Now let's answer some questions. Here, this diagram shows an arthropod animal. Which features are characteristic of all arthropods? Watch out, because this question is a little bit misleading. Why? Because the picture here shows an insect, but he's asking about all arthropods. So please read the question carefully. Do not depend only on looking at the pictures. So all arthropods have jointed legs and segmented bodies, or jointed legs and a thorax, or segmented body and wings, or thorax and wings. In order not to get confused, you can use this as, or try to handle this as, a yes or no question, or true or false question. So do all arthropods have thorax and wings? No. We have centipedes and millipedes. They don't have thorax and wings. Do all of them have jointed legs and a thorax? Yes, they all have jointed legs, but do all have a thorax? Of course not. Do all of them have wings? No. So the correct answer here is jointed legs and segmented bodies. Let's look at the other question. Another question here says, what is the correct order of arthropod group, from those who have the most legs to those who have the fewest legs? In this question, I need you to write the number of legs before answering the question. So please go above each class and write the number of legs above it before making your choice. Now the choice is easy after you wrote the number of legs, because you know that myriapods have 400 legs or less. You know that crustaceans have more than 8 legs. You know that arachnids have exactly 8 legs, and insects have 6 legs. So please write the numbers, then the answer would be quite easy. Now the table shows some characteristics of 4 different vertebrates. Which vertebrate is a reptile? Yes, it is B. Why? Because it has legs and scales. Of course, reptiles don't have hair and they don't have fins. Of course, I just need to mention and remind you that there is only one reptile without legs, which is, yes, the snake. A student observed a vertebrate swimming in a pond. The animal's surface was smooth and hairless. It used 4 legs for swimming. At intervals, the animal came to the surface to take mouthfuls of air. Which vertebrate class does this animal belong to? Please, I want you to underline in pencil the keywords. Of course, it's an amphibian, but why? It's a vertebrate, smooth skin, hairless, and it's swimming with 4 legs, and it needs air from the outside, which means that it has lungs. Okay, which animal is not an arthropod? It is animal B. But why? It's an invertebrate. No, it's an invertebrate, yes, but no, it's not an arthropod. Why? Because phylum arthropods specifically must have jointed legs, exoskeletons, and segmented bodies. And those three conditions do not apply to our friend here. So this means that it belongs to another phylum. The diagram shows a key of 5 vertebrates. Now this is an example of how the topics are linked together. So the vertebrates and invertebrates now linked to the dichotomous key. We start here, does it have legs? You have to follow the key. And then which class of vertebrates does organism W belong to? So now we look at organism W. Has no scales, so this excludes what? Excludes, of course, fish and reptiles because they have scales. And then we go back to the upper question. It says has no feathers, so this excludes, of course, birds. Now we're left with has legs, and this gives us only amphibians. So this is how we solve this question. And now we move to another question, but now we're in paper 3 questions. Vertebrate animals are grouped into a number of classes. Complete the sentences by naming each vertebrate classes that are described. A vertebrate with scaly skin and no legs can either be fish or a reptile. A vertebrate with lungs and hair is a mammal, but if it has feathers, it has to be a bird. So now this is the mark scheme. I'm showing it to you so you know how we correct your questions or how we correct your exams, and also how are they correct. So here the 2 answers will be accepted in any of the spaces, while here you have to mention mammals in the first space while birds in the second space. Also, we need to reject the examples. So make sure that you write the name of the class. Now for the last question, the table shows the names of 3 groups of arthropods and some of their characteristics. Place a tick in the box that shows the characteristics present in each group. So please just tick the one that has the characteristic. Do not cross out the extra ones. Please follow the instructions of the questions exactly as they are. So 4 pairs of legs. Yes, arachnids. And 1 pair of antennae. Myriapods. Body divided into 2 main parts. Arachnids. All living organisms show the same 7 characteristics. State 4 of the characteristics of living organisms. And again, this is linking topics together. How will we answer this question? Of course, we're going to state any 4 from Mrs. Gren. So please remember, state means that you have to mention only the name of the characteristic. So you will say, for example, movement, reproduction, sensitivity, excretion, for example. Okay, that's all for this lesson, and thank you.